Chapter 41. Those joining the military were supposed to report for service first thing on the morning of their appointed day. However, since some boys throughout East Germany had to travel to Berlin, they would be accepted at the intake station throughout the day. Fritz hoped the extra hours would buy him time for one final walk to the tunnel. He seemed in better spirits today, or at least he was covering well enough. During the night I had listened at his door for any sign that he was upset, but if he was, I didn't hear it. That was how we became in the East, never too happy and certainly never too sad. Compared to most others, I wasn't as good as reining in my feelings. Lately I was a split of two strong emotions, each fighting the other to control my mood. Today might be the day of our escape, or the day of our arrest. I wasn't sure exactly how to feel, intensely excited or intensely afraid. Mama came home shortly after Fritz and I finished breakfast and announced to the microphones that she was ill. Despite the weak tone of her voice, just one look at her assured me she was fine. She turned up the radio and then whispered in my ear that she would have to stay inside, at least for the morning. Of course, this was only her excuse to delay going into work. However, it did create one problem. If she was sick, she could not risk being seen on the streets. "Did you talk to Oma Gertrude?" I hated to ask, but I wanted to know. Mama whispered, "She only wondered why we waited so long. I will see her again, Gerda, somehow." Mama instructed Fritz and me to go to the tunnel to be sure things were okay, and then do whatever was necessary to connect them. When that was finished, we were to come home and get her. We would have supper tonight in the West. It was everything I could do not to run to the welcome building. Fritz reminded me more than once to walk slower and to wipe such an eager expression from my face. "You're like a beacon right now," he said. "All someone has to do is look at you and know you're up to something." "How do you do it?" I asked. "How can you look so casual on a day like this?" "Because I know what's at stake if I don't. Now relax. Be calm." I was calm as a blizzard, but tried hard not to show it. That became extra important as we approached the wall. Even from a distance we heard noise on the other side, barking dogs and the angry voices of the Grenzers. The last thing we needed was to get their attention. "Why are they there?" I hissed. Had the tunnel already collapsed? Were they just waiting for us to show up, walking like fools into the lion's den? Fritz hushed me. Then we pressed against the wall to listen. To be heard above the dogs, the officers were shouting at one another, and every so often we caught their words. "Water pipes! Leak! West German incompetence! Investigate!" They said nothing about a suspected tunnel, or about anyone's arrest, or death. From the little we could gather, they knew water pipes ran through this corridor, and blamed the sinking soil on a leak somewhere underground. Perhaps any digging noises they heard was also credited to the leaking pipe. But we also caught the word investigate. They were going to dig down, and when they did, they would discover far more than a broken pipe. Fritz grabbed my arm to reassure me. "We're leaving this afternoon, Gerda. They probably won't go looking before then." Maybe not, but it wasn't impossible either. At least the tunnel hadn't collapsed. That was my first thought once we entered. It may have unnerved me the first time I went underground, but now this small dirt corridor was the only place I felt truly secure. The world outside was the dangerous place. That's where the Stasi and Grenzer officers hunted night and day, where gossips and tattlers could destroy lives, and where conversations in the privacy of a home were anything but private. But in this tunnel, nothing bad would happen, not unless the world figured out where we were. We were here. Unless the world figured out we were here. As we got deeper into the tunnel, better news awaited us. Dominic was already over on his side, quietly digging. A small hole had opened up in the clay soil between us. Nothing that any creature larger than a rabbit could squeeze through, but it was a start. If I went all the way down on my stomach, I could see his feet. "Where's Papa?" I asked Dom in a voice no louder than was necessary. "Still securing the braces. We worked all night." "There are Grenzers overhead," Fritz said. "They found the sunken area and want to investigate." "We know," Dom answered. "We can hear their dogs." "So let's dig," I said, getting to my knees. "Let's dig and be out of here before they find us." "We can't go much farther," Dom said. "Papa thinks this last connection is holding the tunnel up, like the bearing wall of a home." "Then we can't open it?" It was impossible that we should have come so far just to be stopped now. Let's just try and see what happens. Dom was always more of a tease, and he was back in that role now. Sheesh, Fritz. Has she really gotten that pushy in the last 4 years? How have you managed? I sat back and folded my arms. Pushiness was a necessary side effect of being the youngest, and I felt like throwing a full-scale tantrum right then to remind them of it. Fritz only chuckled and brushed his hand across the top of my head. She's worse than you can imagine, Dom, but if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't be here. He was quiet, and then he said, I missed you. There was silence on the other end. Then Dom's voice came in little more than a whisper. And I miss both of you. Mama, too. Papa's cooking is terrible. I knelt forward. So what can we do? Papa said we have to be patient for another couple days until the dirt settles. No, the settling is the problem, I protested. Fritz is supposed to join the military today. If he doesn't, we can't open this until we know it will hold. Fritz sounded certain, but just from looking at him, I knew he was every bit as worried as me. He didn't have 2 days left, not even one. Dom continued, Papa wants you to brace your side of the tunnel. Do anything you can to secure the dirt overhead. Once we're sure both sides are strong, then we'll finish chipping away at the middle. I'll make mortar for the bricks, Fritz said. Gerda, to make it, I need water from the pond. I was already on my way with the bucket in hand. All right, $1 summary, please.